Liminal rites occur only within traditional societies. In other words, liminal rites, as first described by Van Gennep and then as described by Turner and others, even if they didn't use that term liminal, I mean Van Gennep and Turner did, but all of these, much ethnographic literature, it depends upon a mutually accepted value system. And in fact, it depends upon a very coercive situation that if you don't accept that value system, you're isolated from the community, you're thrown out of the community. You must, that value system is like your lease on collective, on a certain kind of collective life. And of course, with the introduction of the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, private property, capitalism, all of these things began to authorize individual ownership of culture, not just individual participation in culture. Obviously, individuals always were individuals. You were a good chief, a bad chief, you were this or that, you got killed, but you were part of the corporate. The individual as such only had, quote, rights, quote, within the corporation. I'm not talking about the business corporation, within the community, and there was no life outside the community. There was only another community, and you could join it or you could live in the wilderness, but there was no life outside. In fact, when somebody lived outside, there was like the hermit, or Turner loved St. Francis or something like that. Yeah. Even that was given a place within the community. They had a discourse for it. There was no real bohemian that was, you see, the hermit is to liminal what the bohemian artist or the left bank is to liminoid. So we'll get there. So with the rise of individualism and the whole set of ideologies, and even Protestantism as an individuated religion within Christianity, as opposed to the Catholic corporatism, the whole ball game changes. So classical Catholicism is liminal, and Reformed Protestantism is liminoid. Of course, all right. Second statement on that. Within liminoid societies of which we live, modern and postmodern, and I want to distinguish between the modern and the postmodern in this regard, there are pockets of liminality. So if you are a believing Catholic, you can, Monday through Saturday, live a liminoid life. But when you go to confession, when you go to Mass, when you join the body of the church, or whatever you want to call it, you're living a liminal life. And even though, and it gets complex because you voluntarily live that life, but if you're a believer, it's not voluntary, right? You can't go to heaven, you're not entitled without the sacrament, so it's voluntary and not voluntary. So you're able to include, this is what the paradox, and I don't think Turner wrote about it so much, within the liminoid world, there are liminal pockets, and it's still within the liminaloid world, so you agree to be in that pocket, but once having agreed to be in that pocket, it swallows you up all the way. You can't believe in the sacrament and not believe in it at the same time. You either believe in it or not. And of course, some people say, I do it, but I don't believe in it, which means that's a liminoid statement about a liminal action. And why do they do it? Because they're taking Pascal's wager. You know Pascal's wager? No. All right, so Blaise Pascal, great friend. So he was a dyed-in-the-wool atheist. On his deathbed, he called for a priest and for the last sacraments. And his friends, the philosophes, came around and they said, you can't do this. You're betraying us. We're atheists. He says, it's just a bet. I think there's no afterlife. I'll bet 1,000,000 to 1 there isn't. But who would not take such a bet in my situation? If there is, I certainly don't want to go to hell. So it's called Pascal's wager. So Pascal's wager in philosophy is a kind of liminoid gesture to liminality, right? And so the liminal continues. It's not a switch on and switch off. I think Turner would like to have thought of this sparagmos, the end, but I don't see it that way. I say the liminal continues not only in traditional society, in our society, but within the world it's saturated by the liminoid, so we choose to be liminal. which is a paradox, a contradiction. And that it's one of those Batesian things. Everything within this frame is true, everything within this frame is a lie. It's that kind of thing. We choose to be liminal. But in choosing to be liminal, we are liminal when we are liminal. Right. So that's similarly for the candomblé, I would say, for those things. I'm not sure that those people are adepts all the time. That's what the liminoid world introduces individual agency. And in a truly liminal society, there's no individual agency. There's individual style, there's individual placement, there's individual hierarchy, but there's not real individual agency. Agency belongs to the communal, the collective nature. All right. Now, where were we?
Is there a tragedy to the
Yes.
liminoids?
Okay. So the tragedy to the liminoid must be in the realm of aesthetics. And we have to distinguish between sadness and tragedy. So sadness, of course, you lose a loved one. There are many occasions that we feel great sadness or little sadness. Tragedy, however, as a genre of thought, not only a genre of literature, as a genre of thought, is the inevitability of and the irreversibility of loss, let's put it that way, within this whole collective enterprise. Or to put it in the classic, Aristotelian tragedy of Oedipus, nothing Oedipus could have done in his life could have made him avoid his fate. So the tragedy is that his fate has been preordained, predestined. He takes actions to avoid it, and the paradox, or the irony rather, not paradox, irony is that every action he takes to avoid his tragedy brings him closer to it, but it has already been written. So so that goes back to what I've just said. That's a liminal phenomenon. He belongs to the community, and that community script for him has already been written. So he has the illusion of individual agency, and indeed, so he's punished for trying to be liminoid. This is something new now, I haven't thought of this. He's punished for trying to be liminoid within a liminal world, right? All right. Now, to some degree, Protestantism, certain forms of Protestantism, which believe in predestination, reinscribe this kind of liminality in the modern world. They say, your life has already been predetermined, and so if you're rich, that is proof that you're saved. Etc. Your destiny has been written, but you don't know what the writing is. So you have to go out and earn your evidence that you've been saved, but it has been written. Now others, like existentialists and modern atheists, agnostics, even classical Catholicism would say it's not predestined. You have choices to make, etc. So tragedy, actually classical tragedy, occurs only when you have no choice, but you don't know you have no choice. And when circumstances kind of reveal to you your lack of choice. So this is all written all over Shakespeare. And there's a great short story of Kafka called The Penal Colony. I don't know if do you know this story? So the prisoner only knows his crime at the moment of death, right? He knows he's condemned, but he doesn't know for which. So that's the classic tragic insight. Tragedy exchanges life for insight. At the end you know, but you're going to lose your life. Othello, speak of one who loved not wisely but too well. He at the end he tells his, tell the story of this Moor who loved not wisely but too well, and at the end, having killed Desdemona, having found out that Iago, he now knows, but he's finished. Or Hamlet says, "Tell my story." He knows at last. So we trade that. So that tragedy is the knowledge that we have no freedom, even though we thought we had freedom. And all right, now can this be a liminoid phenomenon? This is certainly a liminal phenomenon. It is, and again, it's a pocket of liminality within liminoidism. So true tragedy is always liminal. Cannot be liminoid, because liminoid is connected more to this pastiche, to the montage, to the irony, to the making fun of such things, of saying, hey, We never know. I mean, I would say that liminoid is more pessimistic and less tragic. These are very good things. I mean, it's more pessimistic and less tragic. So tragic is you find out you're condemned to die and why you're condemned to die. And in finding out you have scientia est potentia, knowledge is power. You have that knowledge and you die. You trade your life for that knowledge. And so that is, that's very meaningful. Liminoid, you live in perpetual doubt. And what did I say? It was skepticism or so that you cannot have tragedy. You can have irony and you can die, but you never know exactly why you're dying because you don't have a belief system in which your death is absolutely secure. You are Pascal's wager. You're taking a bet. Maybe at the end of your life you'll say, bring the priest, or do this, or do that, but you don't really believe it. You're just saying you're believing in the action, that if I do it, if there is a God, that God will accept me. But of course, if there is a God, the God is also liminoid by now, and is going to say, you're not right. So those are critical and crucial differences, I think.
That's interesting.